These stunning patent coal fuel blocks are off a wreck called the SS Skaala, and that's going to be the subject of today's dive. Hi, this is Dom Robinson and welcome to my Deep Wreck Diver channel. Today's video is the quickest that I've ever got a video of a dive, from the dive actually taking place to me getting it online on YouTube. So kind of slightly exciting for me. Don't know how that's going to go, but hope it works out okay. The other thing is, loads of stuff happening on this dive. First thing is that a diver doesn't make it back to the lazy shot, so there's a load of us end up hanging on for grim death in the currents and have to go through that decision-making process of what to do. I've also got two new items of equipment on this dive. I've got one of these Divevolk waterproof housings for a mobile phone, and I've got a new torch, a new backup torch, which is this great little Orcatorch D710. So I'm going to talk about those as well. But you say, yeah, that's all fantastic. What are you actually diving on? Well, this dive is on the wreck of the Skaala. Skaala sunk in December 1917. It was about 70 metres long. It was a collier, so loads and loads of those lost during the First World War. Nothing particularly special about this one, apart from it is carrying a whole load of patent fuel blocks. These were made by compressing coal dust and pitch together and produced loads of energy, so they were really popular as fuel for ships, especially with the Navy. So the Skaala is absolutely jam-packed with them, and you're going to see loads during the dive. Just before I start though, just really hope, if you haven't already done so, if you can subscribe, that'd be brilliant. If you're able to like or leave a comment after the video, really appreciate that. So this is March 2025, which is relatively early season for UK diving. That means that the weather is always going to have a big part to play. And this weekend was no different. There was easterlies coming in, which are probably the worst weather for diving in Plymouth. Now, we're really lucky. We dive with a great team. The skippers are professionals, and therefore we trust what they're going to say. And they were like, don't worry guys, it's going to be okay. We'll get you out. And sure enough, they were absolutely spot on. Even though it was a bit lumpy on the way out and a bit lumpy on site, actually calmed down during the day and was completely workable. We're diving off Size Matters, which is another one of the in-deep boats. Our skipper today is for Ben. You'll have seen it on my other video from the Hans Jensen last year. But this is, there's loads of room on Size Matters, absolutely massive boat. It's also got this overhead system for holding on to, and you can see here Rick and me waddling towards the water with all our gear on, even though it's quite lumpy. Because we've got those things to hold on, it actually makes it really easy, and also, probably more importantly, really safe as well. Because last thing you want to do, obviously, is when you've got all this gear on, is to fall over. Chances are you could hurt yourself, but also it'd be really difficult to get back up again. So there you go. Always a great moment. You've got all that gear on, you get in the water, and the dive's about to begin. You can see there's a shot with the pot buoy which has come up, so that means that the current has dropped down enough, and it's going to be, the dive is on. Slightly different view of the same thing. Obviously this is from my head-mounted cam. This is from the paralens that I've got on the helmet on the right-hand side. You can see me there. That's Rick in front of me. Obviously, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that me and Rick, we dive together a lot. We work really well. He's gone in first. There I am behind him. What's maybe slightly different on this dive is that we're actually the last pair in. That means that all the work has been done in front of us. The first pair went in. They tied a grapple into the wreck, and you'll see that when I get to the bottom. Second pair, actually, it was a three. They went in and they put the lazy shot system on, so we'll see the lazy shot when we get down as well. So all that Rick and myself have to do, really, nice easy life, we just have to get in and get on with the dive. Now you can see the current is running a bit here, because I'm having to work quite hard to get on the shot line. And this site that we're diving is notorious really for strong currents. So you've got to get the slack absolutely bang on. And as you'll see at the end of the dive, your systems have got to all work and everything, because otherwise you're dealing with these really strong currents. And diving in strong currents, I'm sure loads of people have done it. They've done it in different scenarios, different contexts and everything. It is just not a lot of fun. And that's why we take loads of measures to ensure that we can deal with tides and strong currents. We always dive at slack, and then we decompress on lazy shot systems. And if you haven't seen my video on that, here's a link up in the top right of your screen, which will hopefully explain what I'm talking about. On the subject of the lazy shot, you can see it's just starting to come up in front of us there. Now, because this wreck is relatively shallow and the lazy shot is set up for a much deeper dive, what the skipper's done is he's shortened the lazy shot. You can see that big bundle of rope there, is all it's doing is shortening it. So the actual lazy shot you can see here is about 25 metres. There's the release. All the divers in front of us have put their clips and their tags on. I'm just taking mine off there. You can see mine is going on. And behind me will be Rick, and Rick will be coming and putting his on. I'm probably going to have a bit of a look just to make sure he's there. There he is. Yeah, he's coming down. You can see his camera hanging in front of him, and all the fabulous photos. Well, the majority of the fabulous photos you see on this dive are courtesy of Rick. So just before I get to the bottom, just a bit more about the Skaala. Absolutely bog standard collier. There was hundreds, maybe thousands of these things sunk during the First World War. There isn't a picture of it that anybody knows of. All we've got is this one here, which is a really blurry image of its sister ship, the Artemisia, I think it was pronounced. Also lost in the First World War, but in the North Sea. So, you know, when we're going exploring, we find loads and loads of colliers. It was the fuel of the nation. It was the fuel of the war, and they moved it all by sea, and loads of it got sunk by German submarines. So, here I am on my way down. You can see starting to get close to the bottom because you can see all the strobes of the divers in front of me. And you can also see I've started to catch up with one of the divers in front of me as well. So obviously the first thing on my agenda is going to be to get my strobes on that line. Those of you who've seen my strobe video, and if you haven't, I really encourage you to do so. You'll know that I like to have a pair of strobes, and you can a few other people do the same thing. I'm going to put them on. I'm going to put them on a bit lower than everybody else is. You know, it's how high do you put them? So it's a good question, and it's very much personal preference. For me, I like to be able to see the wreck when I put them on. And as you can see here, the wreck is just starting to come into view. You can see a load of ribs off to the right-hand side. You can see a winch or something underneath me. But there we go. There's my strobes on, and you can see actually conditions are looking much, much better than I expected. Some other people had dived, not this site, a site out of Plymouth the day before, and they'd reported 1 to 2 metres with a really heavy groundswell. Now, that's workable and doable. It's just not as nice as you would like. Okay, in front of me, what you can see here is you can see the grapple, and you can see there's a bit of blue sort of rope, I guess, that's tying the shot into the wreck. And you can see that's a good thing to do because the current is still running, and you can see that by the fact that the rope is off to one side. It's not vertical, and even Rick is not on it anymore. So there's no divers on it. The only thing that's currently on it is the lazy shot system. So we felt the current on the way down. It was definitely still running. And one of the things with this dive site is slack is kind of difficult to predict. We're there or thereabouts for absolute certain. You've already seen the pot buoy on the surface, so we know it has slackened off. And this is a great neeps, so you don't get much better than this. So you can see I've got my main torch on there, just scanning around. Now I'm going to be talking quite a lot about torches, or certainly a bit anyway, on this dive. And my primary one is an Orca D630. I get quite a lot of people asking about that. I've got it in my left hand, you can see that. It's really, really nice. I don't know how many lumens it is, but it's an awful lot. And it's a torch that I absolutely love. I've had problems with previous versions of it with the buttons, and I had a few that flooded, but they seem to have resolved it, so absolutely fantastic. But as you can see, what I'm looking at here is on the bottom of the seabed, there's a big winch off to the left, but then there's all these coal blocks. And you can see underneath me there, there's a carpet of them. So, you know, the floor is made up of these coal blocks. Now, these coal blocks you see have got patent Cardiff stamped on them, along with that absolutely wonderful crown. Loads of people have lifted these off this wreck. I mean, obviously there's a ton of them down here. They've lifted them off, and then they paint them up, they varnish them, and they actually look really, really nice as kind of objects. What I've managed to do there is by waving my hand on the floor, is I managed to kick up the viz, as you can see. So it is quite silty down here, and even though the viz is good, obviously that destroys it. Off to my right hand side there, that's one of the other divers. It's not Rick, but he's got another guy with a yellow box on. So now I know exactly where I am on this wreck, because the Skaala was torpedoed just after the engine room on the starboard side. So the bit with all the plate missing off to my right, that is where it was torpedoed. Now it's kind of difficult for you, I know, looking at my video, particularly with conditions, where it is, although the viz is good, that it's actually quite dark, and my torch there is only lighting up a bit of it, so it's difficult for you to see the wreck in the full context. But what you've got off to my left hand side there, that kind of boxy structure, that is part of the prop shaft. So there was a big box there. Now I don't know the technical term, but it's some sort of part of transmission system or something like that, because the engine is just in front of that. And when I say just in front of it, I mean as I'm looking at it here, in front of me. Now what I'm going to do here is in an attempt to get a bit more light on the subject, I've got my camera with me on this dive. I don't actually take any I'm not going to take any photos with it, but what I thought I might do is use the video lights to illuminate things a bit better. So you can see here what I'm doing is I'm folding the arms on my camera, and I'm going to turn the video lights on, and there you go. You can see that's actually a lot better. In front of me there, those three things, well, maybe four things, they are part of the cover on the engine, I think, and the engine is actually underneath it. If you look through the first one, or the left-hand one, you can see the back of the engine there. You can also see an oil box that's come off the side of the engine. I've got my torch on it there. It's the thing with all the pipes coming up to it. Now, oil boxes, people often lift them. They take them off wrecks. They look absolutely lovely. They are brass. They've got all those brass or copper pipes coming out of them, and those pipes would have gone to different parts of the engine or the transmission or whatever that needed oiling. So they would top up those oil boxes nearly continuously, and I think it was somebody's job to do that. So they would top up those oil boxes, and then they would lubricate the engine, lubricate different parts of the transmission system, and all that kind of stuff. So quite unusual to see them on certainly shallower wrecks, because they have all been pretty much taken it. People do like them, but yeah, well, if anybody wants one, there's one there on the Skaala at the rear of the engine. And there is, the thing about the Skaala, of course, is because it is that 48 meters is kind of deep, so that if people were diving on air, and loads of people did dive this on air, there would be quite a high level of narcosis. So what it meant was that because people had nitrogen narcosis, they would often struggle to see things. Or if they were diving this, lots of people were focused on the coal blocks. So all they wanted to do was come down, fill a few bags full of coal, and send those bags up, and then they got the coal blocks, and they were happy. Oh, there's Rick. You can see he's putting one of his video lights on the wreck, and he often does that to kind of provide a level of illumination. And it's a really good technique for dives like this, where the visibility is good, but it's dark. So if you want to see things, putting a light at the limit of visibility away from you means that you get some really nice photos. And you're going to see some of Rick's photos that he's taken. As always, he's really kind. He allows me to use them. I'm so grateful, because they do add a lot to to these videos. So he's put that video light in. He's going back. I've still got my video lights on, and you can see illuminating here the top of the engine. It's just much nicer with this kind of level of illumination than looking at it through just my power lens and with just my handheld torch. The other thing with video lights, for those of you who don't know, is most torches have a narrow beam, so they focus on whatever you're pointing the torch at. Video lights have a really wide beam that doesn't have any focus, so they throw light in, say, 120-degree angle. You can see it really well, the difference there. I've just turned on my torch, and you can see how narrow the beam is. The other thing I've got is, in fact, it's not actually my main torch I've turned on here. What I've done is I've been reaching in my pocket, and I've got out my backup torch, which is this Orcatorch D10. So I like Orcatorch products. This Orcatorch is actually one that was bought for me by Christmas. My wife bought it for me at Christmas as a backup torch. My previous backup torch had flooded, so I needed another one, and she bought me one of these, and it's really great. I mean, it's not as good as a normal, my canister torch, but then, it does fit in my pocket. So one of the things with this kind of diving is you need to have redundancy. And those of you who've seen my Memora video will know that I lost 3 dive torches on that dive. So it wasn't a good day for torches. So having redundancy is important, because the last thing you want, particularly with something like a torch, is to get all the way out to a dive site. You've invested loads of effort and time and everything. Oh, there you go. There you can see it. You can see it's not particularly big. It's got a nice beam, and you can see there it's got a button on the top of it. You can cycle through different modes. I've got it off at the moment, and I mean, clearly 99% of the time you'd use it in full brightness, but there you go. So yeah, no, redundancy with torches is important, and having a decent backup torch is really important. I like these Orcatorches. Interestingly enough, I think on the back of my YouTube videos, a guy who runs an online shop on Amazon has sent me an Orcatorch and said, "Look, would you do a unboxing video?" And I'm like, "Yeah, cool. That sounds interesting. Maybe it's a mark of how far my YouTube channel has come that somebody's asked me to do an unboxing video." But anyway, so I've taken the torch down, and I'm giving it a go. But actually, it's not the one he sent me. It's the one that my wife gave me for Christmas. But they're identical, so I don't feel there's a problem with that. And in fact, I think one of the things I'm going to do with the one that the guy sent me is, after I've done the unboxing video, I'm going to run a competition. I haven't quite figured out how to do it yet, but if you kind of pay attention to one of my later videos, you will be able to find out how you can win one of these excellent little Orcatorch camera lights. They're great. They're great as a backup, but to be honest, if you're starting off and you dive in and you don't want to spend a load of money on a torch, it's actually a really good torch as a primary as well. So anyway, more about that later on. On the wreck here, you can see there's another dive in front of me. He's got something in that bag. Chances are it's a crab. There was loads and loads of them on this wreck. I'm actually not sure I've taken any video of one yet, but certainly there was loads of them around. He's got a really big male crab in that bag, which he's going to take home and have for dinner. For those of you who are concerned about this kind of thing, this is completely legal in the UK for divers to take crabs and lobsters. All you need, and not crayfish, yeah, I said crayfish already, scallops. All you have to do is have a license to do it in this particular part, and I'm sure that diver has got a license. So, and he will take it home and he'll eat it, and there's nothing better than eating stuff that you've caught yourself. It's also it's a really sustainable method of fishing when compared to the kind of way it's done commercially with, bottom trawls, even pots. Pots leave debris all over the seabed. You often find the remnants of fishing left strewn all over the wrecks. Poor old fishermen, they don't mean to do it, of course. It's just their gear gets caught in they put it close to wrecks, because wrecks have loads of stuff on them. Then their gear gets caught on the wreck, then they lose it, and it remains on the wreck forever. There's a load of organisations that come down and remove fishing gear off wrecks. Good effort to them. They're never doing the Skaala. The Skaala is just too deep for them to do it with all their safety procedures and all that kind of stuff. So all the deep wrecks absolutely littered with fishing gear. Now you can see here, I'm on this is the starboard side of the wreck. There's the remnants of the hull, and the wreck is off to the left. I don't know what I'm doing there, just messing around with something. But yeah, you can see I've turned off my video lights here back to the main torch. And kind of the reason for that is that swimming around with the camera is a bit of a pain. So I kind of have a way of shortening the camera, and then it just hangs down from me, what I've done there. If I did that with the video lights, they'd just get in the way everywhere. Occasionally the camera catches on things, and you can see what I've just done there is I've kind of folded up the arms and everything. But this is me heading forward. You've probably seen the wreck is quite badly smashed up, as in all the the top bits of it have fallen down, but the bottom bit of the wreck is all completely intact, other than that bit where the torpedo hit. And the reason is because it's inside it, it's got all these coal blocks, and these coal blocks provide a kind of level of resistance against decay. So all the wrecks in this part of the world, the vast majority of them have fallen apart, and the reason they've fallen apart is because of the strong currents and the strong tidal surges that get even down here, even down to 50 meters. You can get really strong surges during the winter storms, and that just obviously causes stress on the wrecks. And over 100 years, which is how, or more, 108 years, which is how long this wreck has been down. Oh look, you can see there the patent Cardiff on the coal block. Probably shouldn't have turned my torch on it, slightly burnt it out, but you can see how lovely those coal blocks are. And you can see also there is tons and tons of them down here, even though at one point I think they were nearly commercially lifting these off here. There is still a ton of them down here. And yeah, as I say, the coal blocks provide the wreck with a level of strength that most of the other wrecks in the area don't have. And that means that it's able to survive. And that's why the Scala is so intact. It's one of the, in fact, in this depth range, 40 to 50 meters, I cannot think of a wreck out of Plymouth that is as intact as the Scala. And it's why it's actually dived quite a lot, and it's why it's on lots of people's must-do list. The only thing is the way modern diving has gone. Once upon a time, people would have put a single cylinder on of air, maybe a 10 or a 12 litre cylinder, and they'd have come and dived this. They wouldn't have done very long on it, obviously. But they would have dived it. These days, of course, people won't really dive this unless they've got a twin set and they're doing some form of accelerated decompression. And that's what the kind of the modern idiom is. That's what people feel is necessary to do this kind of dive. Obviously, having said that, I'm diving on a rebreather with Trimix and 2 bailout cylinders. So there we go. Having said that, I've also dived it on a single cylinder, but not for quite a lot of years. So this is right up in the bow here. You've probably just seen that ladder off to my left-hand side. That was a ladder for getting out of the hold. So I'm probably in one of the holds here. And what I think I'm about to find up here is something that, there we go. I've just seen it. Something that's really unusual is a porthole. So as I say, Scala has been dived quite a lot, and therefore, all the interesting fixtures and fittings have been taken off it. But therefore, to find a porthole is quite unusual. And I think the reason why this porthole hasn't been taken becomes quite apparent really quickly. Is it's really jammed in there. I'm kind of trying to get it out, but I don't want it. The Scala was a really cheap ship. It was a collier. They didn't spend loads of money on those. Why would you put expensive fixtures and fittings on something that you were just going to use to carry coal around? But I feel that this will at some point get buried, this porthole. So I'm trying to get it out, see if it will come out. Utterly failing, as you can see, and not achieving anything other than kicking up the viz. So in a minute or two, I'm going to get bored of that and leave it be. So yeah. Anybody wants a manky porthole and is willing to put a bit of effort into getting it out, there's one on the port just forward of in the forward hold, I guess. There's Rick. I've tried to indicate it to him. When I talked to him afterwards, he said he had no idea what I was talking about. He didn't see it, probably because I'd kicked up all the viz. You can see I've just come up out of the hold there. So this is kind of, I guess, the forecastle of the wreck, and you often get interesting things out of this. One of the other divers, you see in a minute, there's a little pile of brass things. He'd been there before me. He found a coin or two. He found a key. So I don't know what that was. Maybe that's somebody's bag that they dropped, or a purse or wallet or something like that. Who knows? It's actually there underneath all that stuff. Now, one of the things is I sometimes forget that my big torch blurs everything out when I've got it on maximum. That's where all that stuff is, just in there. You can see there's a brass thing in there. Anyway, it doesn't come out well on the video. You're just going to have to take my word that it's there. Rick is underneath there. He's just gone into that bit that I've been in, the bit of the deck. He's actually going to take a lovely photo, and there it is. So, once again, if you're a photographer, what do you want? You want interesting things in the foreground, you want interesting things in the background. That's what he's managed to get with this video. And as always, people know that I like Rick to take photos of me. So he's got a photo of me in it as well. So, really good news. Well done, Rick. This is me moving forward. You can see there's a bit of a chain, coming out of a hawser there. Possibly that was the winch for the anchor. You can see this is right up in the bow here. That winch would have, I guess, been a deck above, and it's kind of it's come down. There's a special name for an anchor winch, and I'm really struggling to remember what it is at the moment. It's always difficult when you're doing these videos. I've been talking continuously for quite a long time, and I don't know if you've ever tried to do that while providing commentary to anything. It's surprisingly difficult. So all those people who get paid loads of money on the TV for doing commentary on sports and all those kind of things, I can always see why they've got two of them, because it means that when one person's running out of things to say, they can always hand over to the other guy. And I also understand why they get paid large amounts of money as well, because it is quite a difficult thing to do, especially if you're seeing stuff for the first time. I'm lucky because, of course, I'm seeing this for the second time. The first time was when I did the dive, and the second time is now watching the video. So it should be really easy for me. Obviously, I'm not being paid vast amounts of money. Now, this is the bow of the ship. It's near vertical. You could probably see that from the photo that I showed you earlier on. You can also see that part of the, I guess, the hull is rusting away. And what I'm going to do is just have a look in here, see if there's anything interesting. Often in bow lockers, they would have stored all sorts of bits and pieces, things like lamps and lenses and all those kind of things. Now, the reality, I think, is that this is actually accessible. So if there was anything like that in there, people would have got in and would have got it a long time ago. As I say, Scala will have probably first been dived in maybe the 60s or the 70s. I think the bell was found in the 80s, very early 80s. So it's been dived a lot, and therefore all these kind of things are pretty much long gone. So anyway, there we go. I've been to the bow. Capstan, there it is. Got it. There's the capstan for the anchor. You can see it's upside down. There's a bit of decking on the top of it. You can see the wheels and everything that would have lifted everything. There's one on the left-hand side. I've just got my little backup Orcatorch out again. There we go. So just to show you, that is a decent little torch. It's really nice. If I'd have got to the bottom of this dive and my primary torch had failed, which sometimes happens, I would have quite happily done this dive on that backup torch without any problems at all. And that just shows how good it is. There's Rick behind me. He's we are pretty good at sticking together, which is quite good. You can see in his left hand there, he's got one of his video lights, and he's got two big lamps obviously attached on his camera, which is outrageously good. It's an incredible bit of kit. So you got that ideal combination. Great photographer with a great camera, and that's why we get so many good videos. So many good photos. Now you can see what I'm doing here is I've been to the bow. I've been underwater for quite a long time. What I'm going to be doing is heading back towards the direction of the shot, which is pretty much on the stern. You can see there's loads and loads of coal blocks. As I say, there are tons and tons and tons of these on this wreck. And for those, a little bit of a kind of a segue about this coal blocks is that the company who made these provided a whole load of them to Scott. Scott, obviously, famously a British Antarctic explorer. He was nearly the first man to the South Pole. Was beaten by Amundsen, and then very sadly, Scott and the rest of his expedition perished as they were coming back from the South Pole. Really sad story, but the company that made these coal blocks, they provided, I think for free, a load of them. So for the base station that Scott had, used these coal blocks to provide heat and everything. I think they had so many of them, they actually built the kennels for the dogs out of them. There's a little piece about this on one of the museums, one of the websites of one of the museums in Cardiff. They've got a picture of exactly the same coal blocks that we see down here, and they must have produced, I guess, probably millions of these things and provided them for various different purposes over a long time. I think one of the main purposes for these coal blocks was with the Navy. The Navy, basically in their ships, they wanted to get the most efficient fuel they could manage. Now, coal itself is quite jaggedy, so when you put lumps of coal in a bunker, what you end up with is quite a lot of spare space, all the air gaps around the jaggedy lumps of coal. So by making coal blocks like this out of coal dust and pitch, you actually get something that's really efficient, because when you can store it really efficiently in the bunkers of ships, so it doesn't, there are no air gaps, you are filling your coal bunker up with 100% energy. I also think the combination, it was also a good reason. Coal dust, I think, was a kind of almost a waste product of coal mining, so therefore you were using this waste product as well. You were mixing it with pitch, and therefore I think it was potentially cheaper than coal as well. So that may have been another reason why it was so popular. But yeah, there's loads of these ships carrying these coal blocks around. There's another one out of Plymouth. I've dived one off the north coast of Cornwall. I'm sure there's tons and tons of them around as well. So I've probably digressed a bit much on coal blocks, but I do think it's really interesting. It's kind of something from history that nobody remembers about, and therefore, you know, worthy of mention. So in terms of the dive, though, we are getting close to the end of the dive. You can see here I'm heading back to the shot. I've just gone past the boiler. You probably very briefly saw that on the left-hand side. There's loads of kind of hatches and bits of superstructure and all those kind of things. So because I've gone past gone past the boiler rather, the engine is going to be coming up on my left-hand side. So I'm basically on the port side of the ship here. I went up to the bow on the starboard, coming back on the port, just having a look at it. The engine is, there it is, there's a start of the engine. It's underneath all that kind of, it's buried the engine on this wreck, which is, once again, really unusual. Engines are pretty much a thing that stand upright after everything else has fallen down. Then finally the engine itself will normally go and fall off its mountings. So most wrecks of this kind of era that we dive out of Plymouth, the engine will be upright, standing by itself. Sometimes the engine will have gone over, but mainly upright, and quite unusual to see it. As you can see this one here, where it's still sort of buried in and around loads of other wreckage. Obviously, I'm just, there's all sorts of interesting things around engines. You'll have seen on some of my previous videos, hopefully, that I found several makers' plates last year in 2024 near engines. So you never know. I always hold out hope. I don't think the maker's plate has come off the Skaala. Chances are it's buried under all that kind of stuff, but there we go. So I'm back in the stern holds here now. You can see, you did see a moment ago, all the coal blocks. You can see the hatch off to my left-hand side where the coal would have been lowered in and out of. Somewhere around here there's a big winch, which is obviously used for moving cargo in and out. Ships of this period, there weren't cranes on the dockyard. The ships themselves had to provide the cranes, so they would do all their own lifting. It's one of the ways, I think, in which shipping has changed. You can see a couple of things there. You can see some lights just forward and left of me. Some of those were Rick. You also hopefully saw the lights on the shot line. And once again, that's always a good moment in a dive. You're heading towards a shot line. You're looking for the lights. You see them. It's like fantastic. That's great. And you can see there, that's that carpet of coal blocks that I talked to you about at the beginning. Oh, some pink sea fans for those of you who like those sorts of things. And so seeing the strobes when you want to see the strobes, really reassuring, because you're getting back to the shot line. And as you can probably see, the shot line is quite taut at the moment. There's a few reasons it's quite taut. The first reason is that the current has picked up, and the second reason is that all the other divers, all those people who went in before us, are going to be hanging on to either the shot line or more likely the lazy shot system. And that's one of the reasons why we tie in. So the tying in provides a bit of extra support for that grapple. And the last thing we would want is the grapple to come loose and maybe come off the side of the wreck. In which case we're obviously stuffed. But anyway, coming back up, there I am. I'm going to pick up my strobes, my lovely double strobe. Once again, if you've not seen the video, you know, you can see I have put something up explaining all about those. Rick's gone to a double shot system, a double strobe this year for the first time. He hasn't really put enough bungee on. And one of the things he came out of the at the end of the dive and was saying, "Oh yeah, it was a right pain for me to get my strobe on and off." So he's going to be putting more bungee on. So anyway, here we are. Dive's done. When those strobes have been used, they get clipped on the side. I'm also going to be clipping on my main torch. Don't need that anymore, and we're sending up the shot line. Often at this point, I cut my videos and I show you the decompression profile, or maybe show you me getting out of the water onto the boat or something like that. Well, I'm not going to do that on this dive, and the reason is because there's a whole load of stuff that's going to happen that's really interesting, and I think it's quite unusual. So you've got to hang with me for a bit as we come up. There's Rick, just making sure he's okay, which obviously he is. And I'm going to be coming up, and the next thing we're going to encounter, you probably remember on the way down, the lazy shot was about 25 meters with our clips and with the clip and our tags and stuff. So just ascending. As I'm going up there, I'm changing the PO2 on my rebreather. For the bottom phase of the dive, it's 1.3. I'm going to be changing it because we're on the deco now, so I'm going to be changing it to 1.5, and I'll do it both on my controller for the rebreather, which is on the left-hand side, and I'll do it on my off-board computer, which is Shearwater Perdix 2. I'll do that on my right hand. As you can see, we're getting close to the prusik and the lazy shot here. You can see the strain that the prusik is under, and the reason for that, of course, is there's a whole load of divers up on the lazy shot hanging on, and the current has picked up. So there you go. I'm just taking my tag off, which is the yellow one. Rick is going to take his tag off, which was the metal one. You can see I'm trying to indicate to Rick that there's still a tag on. He was about to pull the clip there, and this is a real surprise because there's no strobe down the bottom. We've just found a tag, and we've obviously just travelled the length of the wreck. There's no diver on the wreck, so it's kind of, what do we do? Well, the protocol's really clear. You can't pull the lazy shot while there's still a tag on it, so you've got to give time for maybe another diver who's, you know, somewhere down, you know, on the wreck or whatever. They need the time to sort themselves out. So we're going to carry on ascending, even though in our hearts we both know that there is no diver left on the wreck. You've got to follow that protocol. You've got to follow the procedure, and that is absolutely the right thing to do. So that's what we're doing now. You can see the bottom of the prusik was about 25 meters. You can see we've come up to about 19 there. In fact, there you go. You can see me changing the PO2 on my Shearwater on my right hand wrist. That must have been the first deco stop, about 21 or 18 meters or whatever. So I'm sorting it all out. You can see that the current is picking up. You can see the kind of the particles in the water coming past us. You can see I'm holding on. You can see Rick's holding on. We're both looking up the lazy shot there, trying to figure out how many divers there are. Because of course, what we want to do is count them. We know how many divers went in the water. If all the divers are on the lazy shot, bingo, we're all sorted, and we can cut it, and that's all fine. Because further up the lazy shot, at about 12 meters, is a break. It's a thin piece of string. We can cut it, and then obviously it will release the lazy shot. Obviously, the bit below the lazy shot with the clip and where the tag currently is, that would fall away, and it would be responsibility of the boat to pull that up when it lifts up the shot line. The boat skipper normally lifts the shot line as soon as they can see that the lazy shot is free. The skipper will have been monitoring the distance between the buoy on the lazy shot and the buoy on the shot, and once they start separating, it's really obvious to them, and therefore that's their cue to go and pull up the main shot line. The lazy shot won't have drifted that far. They can then come to the lazy shot and follow the lazy shot as we drift away. That's a fairly standard procedure, and obviously if we've cut the lazy shot, then when they bring up the main shot line, the clip, and as it is at the moment, that other tag will be on there. Anyway, that's all in the future. Doesn't help us at the moment. So you can see we've come up a bit further there. I'm up to 15 meters. So cleared that 18 meter stop. We're now doing our 15 meter stop. And obviously I'm looking down the lazy shot here, looking for another diver, kind of hoping that diver is going to come up, because of course whoever they are, they were in the water ahead of us, and therefore they should have finished their dive before us. They should have been coming up the lazy shot well before this. So it's a really interesting dilemma. You can see Rick there, he's a bit further above me. You can see he's looking up he was looking up the lazy shot, trying to figure out what's going on. So while we wait for me to clear my deco so they can move a bit further up the shot, here's a quick look at my deco profile, and you see, I mean, this is not an extreme dive at all, but you'll see the first deco stop there at 15 meters, and then just steadily goes up from there. If you have a look up there, you can see the bag with my new Divevolk housing hanging out of it. That's 12 meters, and that's also where the break in the lazy shot is. You can probably see it just now. I mean, there's a whole load of mess with bits of string and all sorts of stuff there, but that is where the break is, and you are going to see me cut it if you kind of hang on for a bit, but obviously my deco has cleared enough to allow me to come up to 12 meters. You probably also saw the way that everybody, you can see there, the way everybody is hanging on the line. Right, I'm trying to communicate now. I'm saying that there's one person, one tag down there, but I want to know how many people are above me there, and to be honest, it's difficult to communicate when people are wearing black gloves and you've got all that light up above them. So, you know, obviously anybody who's seen my dives will know that I wear yellow gloves. One of the reasons for wearing yellow gloves, nobody ever misses a hand signal from you. Black gloves look cool, they're very trendy, you know, tech, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, fantastic. Just really difficult to see hand signals. The simple fact is nobody knows. I think we're all aware that there's a spare tag, but nobody really knows where all the divers are. So that kind of gives us a big dilemma, and the dilemma is essentially, when are we going to cut this? How long are we going to wait for that other diver to potentially get up? So I'm not obviously paying much attention to that. I'm just giving a bit of time at the moment, and what I'm doing is taking my Divevolk sort of camera off. Now this is a bit of a mess, this thing I've got here. What I tried to do was put the housing in the same bag that I have my Kindle. It didn't really work that well. There was just too much in there. There was the bag with the Kindle and the Divevolk. So on the dive after this one, I actually got rid of the Kindle and just had the Divevolk housing in, and I also did some other tweaks with it as well, and it works a lot better. And I'm sure a future video subject will be how I set up my housing and how I put a phone in it, and how it is absolutely amazing on deco stops. Complete game changer. The dive after this one, I was watching a film on it. I could hear the soundtrack. I could read the subtitles. It was just amazing. On this dive though, hadn't quite got everything sorted, hadn't got the settings to do with touch and all those kind of bits and pieces. So didn't work quite as well on this dive. And what I'm going to do now is save you a load of frustration, which is me poking this, trying to get the blooming thing to work. And what I'm going to do is accelerate for a bit. So this is maybe a minute or two later. There's the bit of string, the bit that's easy to cut in the lazy shot. Looking up there again, loads of divers, everyone's hanging on, everyone's finding the current miserable. No sign of the other diver. I'm trying to communicate again, and if you see, I'm going to get some more hand signals from the divers above me, but it's really difficult for me to see, as you can see. So we still have this dilemma about what are we going to do, and you can see here I'm communicating. The other diver is making a slightly wavy signal there. I'm repeating it back to them. I don't know what it means. What actually it means is the initial of the person who is not on the lazy shot, or the person that has been seen. So you see here, that's me giving the signal for 7 divers. There's lots of kind of arm waving and everything, so I don't really know what's going on. So what we decide, or what I decide, since I'm the person nearest the thing, is I'm going to wait 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes I'm going to cut the line. I think that's long enough for whoever's down there. There you go, there's a signal for 5 minutes. That's how long I'm going to wait. Points to my computer, 5 minutes. The other diver gave me an okay signal to say they're happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is accelerate the video again. So there we go, 5 minutes later, and you can see I've just checked, time's up. Going to have a look up there, telling the other divers what I'm going to do. Everyone's really pleased with that because, of course, they've been hanging on for ages. And there we go, got my knife out. Good old remora knife. Really, really love these things. They're small, really sharp, and you know, as you can see, that makes fairly short work of that. And we're off drifting in the current, which is obviously great news. Everyone is very, very happy with that. So skip forward again. You can see I'm up here at 6 meters on the deco stop, and I'm playing with this this Divevolk SeaTouch 4 Max Plus that I've got. You see it doing a bit of a selfie there, and you might have seen some of the video that I took at the beginning of the beginning of this video. And this is an absolutely incredible bit of kit. I just can't tell you how impressed I am with this thing here. The fact that you can just stick your phone in it and it's waterproof down to 60 meters. You can operate it using that screen there, and all your everything functions. It's just absolutely amazing. And the fact is, I mean, this thing only cost me £200, so, you know, relatively cheap, certainly by the standards of diving gear anyway. So I'm going to do more about this thing later on. I think I'll do another video about it, just because it is such an impressive thing. And everybody I know who's seen one has gone, wow, that is amazing. And I'm sure they're going to sell bucket loads of these things because it is absolutely brilliant. So fast forward again, this is at the end of the deco, and you can see there, I'm just asking Rick how long he's got left to do. He's got 2 minutes. My deco is cleared, so I'm just telling him there that I'm going to go up. And this is absolutely standard for us. As you clear your deco, people come up to the surface. It's much easier for the boat to get on a single diver rather than 2 divers at a time. And okay, Rick's going to be underwater for 2 or sometimes a bit longer than that, but underwater for a couple of minutes by himself. Frankly, he's really close to the surface. Obviously, he's absolutely sorted. So we don't consider that a safety issue. You may have a different view on that, and some people do like somebody to stay with them, but it's relatively uncommon. We all clear our deco, we go up to the surface, and you can see me just descending up here, taking it nice and easy as I tend to, just for the last few meters. No point. Why would you want to make a rapid ascent on this at this phase of the dive? Just take it nice and simple. That 1 minute from 6 meters to the surface, or maybe a bit longer. It's all good. And as you can see, it's a bit lumpy on the top still. Not as bad as when we got in, but actually nice blue sky, and all is well. And there's the boat, really close, good to pick me up. So it's just going to be a case of me getting myself over onto the lift and getting out the water. And days like this, when having a dive lift, is absolutely wonderful, because you're clearly trying to get up a ladder or something when there's waves and stuff like this would be really quite emotional. So just having the ability to pull yourself on the lift and then the lift to get you out of the water is absolutely great. Now the one slightly downside here is that as the boat's going up and down, it's creating waves, and those waves are actually pushing me away from the boat. So I have to wait for things to settle down a bit. And here you can see I'm just finning onto it, and there we go. Always a good moment. Grabbed the back of the thing, and got myself up onto the lift. I'm going to give a nice big nod to the boat crew there. Liz, who's on board, she's going to lift me up. And here I am, back on the boat. So that's the end of another one of my deep wreck diver videos. I hope you've enjoyed the visit to the Skaala. It's a stunning dive. As always, love to hear your thoughts, love to hear your comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Okay, thank you.